Blake Lively is not the only one celebrating today following the judge's explosive ruling dismissing all of Justin Baldoni's claims against her. Hello, my fam. It is Perez, the queen of all media, the original influencer, and your number one source for everything It Ends With Us saga. The saga is not over yet, but today's ruling definitely puts a big question mark on what happens next. It is possible that Blake Lively will take this win and call it a day. The ruling today does not prove her sexual harassment claims, nor does today's ruling prove her retaliation claims. The judge just said there is no legal standing for defamation, extortion, false light invasion, promissory fraud, all of the things that Baldoni and Wayfarer were suing her husband, her publicist, and the New York Times for. They are now all moot. Except for two claims, the judge says that they can refile in an amended complaint by June 23rd. Huge, huge victory for Blondie. And not just her. As you know, there were many other players involved in all of this, even Disney. Following his ruling from earlier this morning, Judge Lyman just issued the following orders. He says, the motion by Marvel Entertainment to quash a subpoena issued to Marvel from the Wayfarer parties and for a protective order prohibiting the disclosure of Marvel's confidential documents is granted. Pursuant to the court's opinion and order of June 9th, earlier today, dismissing the Wayfarer party's claims, the information sought is no longer relevant to a claim or defense in this action. Moreover, assuming the information were relevant, it would not be proportional to the needs of the case and the potential harm to Marvel of disclosing confidential commercial information. Yay for Nice Pool. As we know, Baldoni was arguing that Nice Pool was based on him. And how ironic that Ryan Reynolds would mock sexual harassment and retaliation that his wife allegedly experienced. And since all the claims against Blake Lively's publicist were also dismissed, the judge says, the motion by Leslie Sloan and Vision PR to compel the Wayfarer parties to respond to interrogatories, I don't think I could ever pronounce that word right, and produce responsive documents is denied as moot. The court's opinion and order of June 9th, this morning, dismissed the claims against the Sloan parties to which the interrogatories and document requests were relevant. Therefore, the motion by the Sloan parties to compel James Vituska, the Daily Mail reporter, to produce documents has been withdrawn. Earlier today, I shared with you Blake Lively's response, gloating about the victory today. And she's not the only one gloating and loving this. Justin Baldoni's former podcast co-host, feminist author Liz Plank, is chiming in. Some of you might remember her. She quit the podcast that she hosted alongside Justin Baldoni after Lively filed her initial complaint in California, the CRD complaint, the basis of the New York Times article. The allegations in that she echoed in her lawsuit against Baldoni, responding to a comment that she liked that said, quote, I just saw the funniest boy problem get dismissed by a federal judge in New York, LOL. Liz Plank said, LMFAO. She too finds sexual harassment and retaliation hilarious. What a day. I am disgusted and depleted. Those are two great words to describe how I'm feeling and the results of everything. We have yet to hear from Justin Baldoni his take on today's ruling. When we get that, I will share that with you. For now, I'm curious your thoughts, especially if you work in show business. Well, they might not want to comment because everybody's afraid to leave comments for the most part. Disgusted, depleted, defeated. Let's talk in the comments section. P.S. Like I said at the beginning, the saga is not over. Even though Team Lively did score this huge victory today, for the time being, they are proceeding. Earlier today, after the judge's ruling, Jed Wallace, who is a party to this situation in New York and also has separate litigation in Texas, Jed Wallace's lawyer submitted a letter to the judge, telling the judge, "We wish to advise the court that immediately, parentheses, within 24 hours after our clients, defendants Jed Wallace and Street Relations, his company, collectively Wallace Defendants, filed their letter motion for a stay of discovery, plaintiff Blake Lively gave notice that she was issuing a subpoena out of this court, Lyman's Court, pursuant to FRCP Rule 45 for the deposition of Street's corporate representative. The corporate notice that accompanied the intent to issue a subpoena covered 20 wide-ranging and we suggest overbroad topics. We asked that the court consider this additional discovery demand on the Wallace defendants when deciding the request for a stay." Well, moments ago, once again, after the judge's ruling, Team Lively submitted their response to Wallace's request of the judge. They say, "Miss Lively respectfully submits this letter in opposition to Jed Wallace and Street Relations' letter motion to stay discovery. The Wallace parties have failed to establish good cause. The Wallace parties have dramatically downplayed their role in the social manipulation campaign at the center of this litigation. The Wallace party's portrayal of themselves as peripheral figures in this action, just a small business and its owner from rural Texas, directly contradicts Miss Lively's amended complaint and contemporaneous documents. The Wallace parties were not minor players in this scheme, and they did not act on the sidelines. Instead, they coordinated directly with the Wayfarer parties to conduct what was internally described as a social combat plan and to deploy a digital army to flood social media with targeted messaging designed to bury Miss Lively and promote Baldoni. Evidence already obtained through the limited discovery produced thus far suggests that the Wallace parties knew that Miss Lively had raised concerns about sexual harassment and other misconduct on set. And as of August 9th, 2024, described themselves as actively working on the project, with Mr. Wallace expressing his excitement about making significant progress. As a result of that work in internal communications, the Wayfarer parties credited the Wallace parties with causing a shift on social by shifting the narrative towards shining a spotlight on Miss Lively. Indeed, the Wallace defendants' efforts were so successful that Nathan commented that the majority of socials are so pro-Justin, and I don't even agree with half of them, LOL. In other words, the Wallace parties were not peripheral at all, but rather were architects and executors of the retaliation campaign at the heart of this dispute. They are central figures in this case, and discovery must move forward as to each of the claims. Indeed, staying discovery would only delay uncovering the full extent of the Wallace party's involvement and the retaliation campaign. I'm glad I squeezed that in too. I'm gonna go squeeze this now. All right, it's over for real, this video. Thoughts on everything? Let's discuss in the comments.